Hello everyone and welcome to another Jurassic World Evolution 3 Top 10 video. So in this video I'm going through my top 10 land species that I'd like to see Jurassic World Evolution 3 add. Now there are some species that I know a lot of the community wants that aren't on here, but also a few that the community really wants that are on here. So it's kind of universal in certain species of what players want to see in the game, and for me I do want to see sort of more non-dinosaur reptiles and animals in general, because frankly prehistory is a vast space to pick animals from. It's not just the Mesozoic, there are other periods in Earth's history that had great species, and you'll see a couple of them here, but I do have a few dinosaurs in here that I myself really do want to see, so let's get into it. The first animals of which I want to see are large Megaraptorans. So we got Australopithecus in Jurassic World Evolution 3, which is a decent sized Megaraptoran, but this group is so diverse and so mysterious that there are certainly many species that can be chosen that could be added to the game. I've singled out three particular species: Terrestrial on the top left, Mape Macrothorax on the right, and Megaraptor itself in the middle. Either one I'd be happy to see, because all three are notorious Megaraptorans that have been growing in popularity over the years, especially since Terrestrial was labelled a Megaraptoran instead of a Carcharodontosaurid. So I remember there was a documentary that featured it and it looked much more like a Giganotosaurus previously. But Mape as well has certainly been growing in a lot of popularity since it was discovered, being the largest of the Megaraptorans, and would really be a formidable animal to see go up against a lot of the species in the game. Like, those huge claws really would make it a fairly unique predator compared to the likes of Allosaurus, Carnotaurus, all predators of a similar size. And Megaraptor itself is still fairly mysterious on its own, yet it was the first that we found. But either one would be great. I'm not really necessarily too fussed on whether it had like a light feathery coating or not. Whether it has it or not in the game doesn't really bother me, but I wouldn't mind seeing just a little bit of sparse covering on it. But either way, just getting a semi-accurate large Megaraptoran is one of my top requests for Frontier. The next dinosaur is actually one of my personal favourite carnivorous dinosaurs, Rajasaurus. So Rajasaurus was a decent sized abelosaurid from India during the late Cretaceous. So back then India was its own floating landmass in the middle of the Indian Ocean, until it eventually brushed up against Asia a few million years later, to say the least. But Rajasaurus is one of the most interesting of the bunch, because we actually do know a good deal about it. It was actually featured in Prehistoric Planet, as you can see, so we were sort of able to see it in more of a realistic light than most other abelosaurids that haven't really gotten the spotlight. But it's been sort of part of the Jurassic franchise for a while, as you've had it in Jurassic World the game and Jurassic World Alive for a good few years. And so I feel like it's only a matter of time before we get this guy in Jurassic World Evolution 3, because frankly he would be a great addition in like an Asia or Islands pack. And we haven't had a new abelosaurid for a very long time, ever since Carnotaurus was added in the Fallen Kingdom update back in Jurassic World Evolution 1. And this is a very underrepresented group in the game, so I wouldn't mind seeing another one. And we haven't got an animal from India yet, so I'd say Rajasaurus would be one of the best choices. Next is one that I don't know if too many people have this one on their list. So this is Nothronychus. So Nothronychus is a North American therizinosaur from the late Cretaceous, and this is basically to diversify that group. We only have Therizinosaurus, and of course it sports its Jurassic World design. So if we were to get another therizinosaur, I wouldn't mind getting one on the smaller side, as Nothronychus was. It was a lot shorter than Therizinosaurus is, but certainly still formidable with those huge claws on either hand. But it would be a great opportunity to get a possibly fully feathered Therizinosaur, or maybe a sparsely feathered one, as it's sort of been suggested that given some of the Therizinosaur's great size, they may not have been as heavily coated in feathers, though maybe with Notonicus being a much smaller member of that group, it could have been covered in feathers. But we don't really know for sure, so really I just would love to see another Therizinosaur, as I think it's just such an interesting group. Yeah, and also gets the fourth toe much closer to the ground, because Therizinosaurs, I believe, have that fourth toe on the ground. Next is easily just one of my favourite prehistoric animals, Inostrancevia, or the giant gorgonopsid of Siberia and South Africa. So this was easily the most formidable predator of its time, being quite large, about the same size as an Amur tiger. And yeah, saying that on its own is pretty spooky for a large predator like this, as I think it would be really good in that small carnivore range, in that it would be running on four legs fairly fast as well. It's predicted that gorgonopsids could actually run at a comparable sprint to that of a bear or a big cat. So it would certainly be able to keep pace with the likes of the raptors, and it would be really interesting to see how this animal would interact with a lot of the species in the game. Gorgonopsids are well known for those large saber teeth, as they were one of the first animals to ever evolve that kind of dentition to be able to dispatch prey. But personally, I just think go big or go home. Inostrancevia is the largest of the gorgonopsids that we know of, and so I'd say it's the best choice in that regard. But we've also seen this animal represented fairly prominently over the years, whether it be in Walking with Monsters, Primeval, or Life on Our Planet, where all three had pretty iconic designs. Personally, Life on Our Planet easily has my favourite. But yeah, it's a great species and would certainly help to diversify the Permian a little bit, maybe in a Permian-specific pack. Now we go a little bit past when the dinosaurs were alive to the Cenozoic. So this is Baronosuchus, and it holds the title of the largest non-mammalian carnivore, terrestrial carnivore that is, of the whole Cenozoic. So this animal was much heavier than a lot of the mammalian predators, well, all the mammalian predators of the Cenozoic. Even Arctotherium angustidens was not quite as heavy as Baronosuchus was, as reptiles tend to be a lot stockier and heavier than most mammals of a similar size. And so it would be really cool to see a terrestrial crocodile or crocodiliform in the game, because this guy was a formidable predator in South America during its time, the apex predator, and we haven't really seen a lot of non-dinosaur reptiles added to the terrestrial roster. We only have Dimetrodon and Lystrosaurus, and they're closer to mammals, but having a proper reptile would be really cool, and Baronosuchus, I'd say, fits the bill quite nicely. Being very similar in appearance to the much earlier Rauisuchians of the Triassic period, I think it would really fit the franchise quite well. Another large Cenozoic reptile, Megalania or Varanus priscus, was a large monitor lizard that roamed the plains of Australia during the Pleistocene. Now, it was big. It was a very big lizard, but I'm just wondering whether it is big enough to really take on dinosaurs necessarily. So Megalania's measurements have been sort of all over the place, some putting it at just 4 meters, others putting it up to the likes of 8 meters. So like, we're not 100% on how big this lizard really was sometimes, but I'd say if it were to be 6 meters, nice sweet spot in the middle, I'd say it would be able to stand a good chance against a lot of the animals in the game. But overall, I'd say it would probably be beneficial to the diversity of the roster, as it would be another venomous animal. So we only have two venomous creatures in the game, well, three actually, three venomous creatures in the game: the Troodon, the Scorpius Rex, and the Dilophosaurus. All three have venomous bites. Well, in the case of the Scorpius Rex, venomous spines. But the Megalania would be another biter, and I think it could sort of play the role as a much heavier, more durable Troodon, as it would bite the leg of, say, a Parasaurolophus and then just wait for the Parasaurolophus to die. So I'd say it would be pretty formidable, and maybe against some of the small carnivores it could actually put up quite a bit of fight, as monitor lizards have some pretty considerable weapons, not just its jaws, but also the huge claws on either of its feet, but also that huge long tail that it uses like a mallet, basically. Like, they swing it with such force, it would be like getting hit by a sledgehammer. And so it would be really good at defending itself, and just using monitor lizard biology to understand this lizard's behavior, I would love to see that translated into Evolution 3. The last of the carnivorous dinosaurs I'd like to see is Yanchuanosaurus. So this was one of the largest of the Metriacanthosaurids. So Metriacanthosaurus that we have in the game is part of this group. But Yanchuanosaurus was from Asia, not England, and was the largest carnivore in its ecosystem. You can see here taking on a Mamenchisaurus in this art. And it could be a good opportunity to add in carnivore pack behavior, like larger carnivore pack behavior on sauropods, because certainly to take on the likes of Mamenchisaurus, you'd have to be working as a team. And Yanchuanosaurus also comes with the benefit of it potentially being quite a colourful species. So there was a mod made back for Jurassic World Evolution 1, and I think it did return in Jurassic World Evolution 2 for Yanchuanosaurus, and it was just a beautiful design by Jagged Fang Designs, and I think that's one of the main reasons more people want it, just because it had such a great mod. But yeah, I think it would also be good for just getting another accurate, semi-accurate carnivore in the game, because we don't have too many. Utyrannus is probably one of our most accurate, as well as Utahraptor and Irritator, but I'd say it's about time we got a more accurate, really large carnivore, and Yanchuanosaurus would be my pick. Another herbivorous dinosaur is Plateosaurus. So it's no secret that a lot of people in the game really want more Triassic representation. The Triassic was a really interesting time for dinosaur evolution, and there were some really iconic species from that time that are not in the game just yet. Plateosaurus probably being the best known that isn't in the game. We have the likes of Herrerasaurus and Coelophysis, which are probably the most famous carnivores, and then you have Plateosaurus as easily the most famous Triassic herbivore. And it would be really cool to see an animal like this, because we do not have any early sauropodomorphs in the game. And I think Plateosaurus is one of the best choices, mostly because it is recognizable, but also is sort of the basis of how we built our idea of early sauropodomorphs on. Although I think Lufengosaurus might actually be more appropriate for that title. Lufengosaurus could actually be a better choice, if I'm going to be honest. We have a lot of specimens of it. But Plateosaurus is the one that people want, and so I'd say this would be a really cool one to see. As it would also have browsing behavior, and from the ground too. So you've got the sauropods that already have their necks at the level of the trees, but Plateosaurus could really work as actually reaching up and just browsing on the lower branches. That would be really cool feeding animation to see. Then we have another Ceratopsian. I know Ceratopsians are very, very much a staple of the Jurassic World Evolution games. We do have quite a lot of them. Not all of them are in Jurassic World Evolution 3 yet though, although they seem to all be coming for free, so get ready for that. But there are plenty of Ceratopsians that I think are sort of more unique and a little bit more interesting than some of the ones that we're going to be getting back. One of which being Diabloceratops. So Diabloceratops is actually quite an early Ceratopsian, existing much earlier than the likes of Triceratops, Pentaceratops, Styracosaurus and the like. And and isn't even part of like the Chasmosaurine or Centrosaurine groups, which were sort of the two main groups of large ceratopsians, horned ceratopsians from the late Cretaceous, and so it is a bit more primitive in that regard. But it's a really interesting animal because you've also got that just very distinct skull shape. So you have these two brow horns that curve upwards, but then you have the two horns from the frill protruding up and outwards, giving it some really distinct horns, and a very cool silhouette, if I do say so myself. But yeah, it's probably my second favorite ceratopsian after Pachyrhinosaurus, and so would not mind seeing it if we were to get it. Then the last species we have is another non-dinosaur, and it's very crocky as well. So we had Baronosuchus earlier, which resembles a Rawasuchian. Now let's go for an actual Rawasuchian. So this is Phaseolasuchus, the largest Rawasuchian that we know of from South America in the Triassic period. And yeah, this was an absolute beast. If Baronosuchus was the largest non-mammalian predator on land during the Cenozoic, then Phaseolasuchus was the largest non-dinosaur terrestrial predator of the Mesozoic. This thing was absolutely massive, getting to, I think, 10 meters long. Maybe longer, I'm not 100% sure. I think it's still a relatively fragmentary animal, but it's a very cool species, and I know a lot of people really want Postosuchus or Saurosuchus, Prestosuchus, sort of those more notable Rawasuchians that we've sort of seen in documentaries and gotten familiar with through games. But I feel like Phaseolasuchus, given its size, is probably one of the most appropriate for the Jurassic franchise to actually hold its own against many of the dinosaurs, as Rawasuchians are thought to have even gone between quadruped and biped in some situations, so potentially you could get a threat display from the Phaseolasuchus where it rocks back on its hind legs to appear taller in the face of an opponent like maybe a Ceratosaurus. But yeah, it's probably another one of my favorites just because it holds that record and would have just been a really formidable predator to witness in life. But yeah, I just would not mind seeing it at all. But that's my list. Can't really provide the best reasons for why I want them, I just do. So these species are my top 10. I know there are many other species that I do want to see, and I know that you guys really want to see in the game, like Shantangosaurus, Shunosaurus, Argentinosaurus. I think there was, what was it up there? Eoraptor was up there as well. But there are loads of dinosaurs that we know that aren't in the game yet, and another whole lot of terrestrial species. Notice how I didn't actually have any proper mammals in this video. It's because I do feel like it is just a matter of time before we get Cenozoics, but if we don't, well, I was wrong again. But yeah, like, I'm not going to sort of get bogged down in all the mammals that I want to see because, well, frankly, there's a lot. I think it's easier to sort of go within the realms of animals that we know are in the game right now and just say what we want, and then hopefully get surprised later that the Cenozoics will show up. But if you enjoyed this video and would like to submit your own top 10 land species lists, do so down in the comments, leave a like if you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one.